Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel if you've been here before, and hello if you're new. Back at the start of the year, I made a challenge video where I hand crocheted this chunky boy. Isn't he a handsome devil? I hated working with this stuff, but I absolutely love the final product. In that video, as I was crocheting my favorite boy here, I highlighted some goals that I wanted to achieve in 2023, and I've done a pretty good job of that so far, I would think. One of those goals being, I wanted to crochet myself some clothing. So what I thought we would do today is have a look back at 2023 and just see how that went. How close did I get to achieving my goals, and where do I want to go from here? You can sit over here behind me. I need a name for him. Suggestions down in the comments. He's too cool not to have a name. So what we're going to do is just go through all the clothing I've made. These will be in no particular order. In fact, you could say the order is whichever one I yoink out of the bag first. This one gets an honorable mention because I didn't crochet this in 2023. This was 2022. I think it was the first piece of clothing I ever made, so I wanted to include it. It's special. So this is my Stitches inspired hoodie. I would like to do an updated version of this design at some point because being my first ever clothing project, yeah, there were a few mistakes made. Definitely a few mistakes made, but I would like to go back to this pattern at some stage, edit it, improve it, and then make a new version, not necessarily a Stitches inspired hoodie, but maybe just a color block raglan hoodie in general. So maybe that can be put on the to-do list for 2024. That's going to be my next problem. Where am I going to put all these things when I'm done with them? The next one I'm going to grab out. Oh, this one's just on the floor, so technically I didn't yoink it from the bag. But my Evolution cardigan. I love this thing so much. But when I was making it, because again, this was one of my very first clothing projects, I want to say either my second or third, probably third, I didn't leave space for my neck. I made the back panel, the Evie panel, the same width as 4 squares across, so the 4 squares at the front, and I should have left additional room in the center. Didn't know that at the time, but I figured that out pretty quickly afterwards, and a lot of you guys mentioned that in the comments too. The fit of this isn't fantastic, but I like this project so much that I'm seriously considering unpicking it and adding some more lengths to the side here on each side of my Evie, just to give me some additional neck room here, because it causes issues. There's not enough room at the... One day I will get used to this being there and I will stop knocking my mic. But not having enough space here, it definitely causes issues. It bunches up a little bit. Here, I'll show you. It bunches up and it pulls these squares right up over my shoulder. So it doesn't look as good as it could. So I really do want to fix this at some stage. When that will be, I don't know, but I want to be able to get more use out of it than I do. I put so much bloody work into this thing and I don't just want to let it sit there. That was good. Mouthful of cat fur. Next cab off the rank, the disaster jumper or disaster cardi. This one, this was originally supposed to be my 70s inspired vest. That turned out way too big, so I had to wing it. And in doing so, I ended up with a pastel rainbow monstrosity of a cardigan. Thanks to all of you, I did figure out where I went wrong. My tape measure that I used to measure these squares is incorrect. The inches side, that is. So when I was measuring these, I think from memory, they had to be 3.5 inches. And I just thought, okay, I'll just get out my tape measure and I'll make them to that measurement. Turns out, according to many, many of you in the comments, that measurement is incorrect. And not being someone who uses inches as a unit of measurement ever, I can probably think of once in my entire lifetime that I've ever used inches as a unit of measurement. I really had no point of reference. I had nothing to compare the inches measurement that I used to. So I had no way of knowing just how far off I was with those original measurements, which, you know, is fantastic. You don't expect your instruments, your measuring tools to be wrong. The end result is that these squares ended up way too big, therefore my vest ended up way too big, but it turned out okay in the end because I got a cardigan out of it. This is not something I will be wearing in public. Normally I don't give a shit, I'll just wear my crochet clothing in public, but I draw the line at this one. This is definitely one of those just around home pieces of clothing. But despite having buggered it up, I do think I did a pretty good job rescuing it, turning it into a cardigan. This is another pattern that I want to revisit. I want to do the original vest properly, and depending how much yarn I have left, I may make a second version of that vest, but I'll put a bit of a twist on it because I have an idea of something else I can do. I can use the vest as a foundation to leapfrog off and create something else. So that was my 70s inspired, what was supposed to be a vest but is now a cardigan. What do we have next? This is sort of a group of three, so I'll get all three out. These are my mesh panel tops. And the idea to make these actually came from, I ended up seeing on YouTube a lot of mesh panel tops, but they were just the mesh stitch part. And a lot of them were, I don't even know what you call them. They were basically sleeves, a portion of the top. It wasn't even a crop top. It was even smaller than that. And then another sleeve. Is that called a shrug? I'm not sure. Please correct me in the comments if you know what that's called. But I didn't particularly like that for myself, but even though that particular style is not my cup of tea, I did want to try using the mesh stitch, the mesh panels, in something else. And that's where the idea for these came from. It's a really basic pattern. You basically just make rectangles or squares, and in doing so, you can create a jumper. This is my favorite one by far, the Ace Colors jumper. Then there is the one I actually did in the tutorial. There is a tutorial available for this if you're interested in making your own. But then there was this one, which I do like. Don't like quite as much as the Ace one, but I do like this one. And then the third one, I wanted to try it just so I could, you know, attempt different styles of this mesh panel top. I don't mind it, but I generally don't like cropped tops. I've always just found them a little bit uncomfortable. I don't like the length. And if I remember right, I think yeah, that's right. I think I made this just before winter or around winter. So it probably wasn't a great time for mesh paneled open short crop tops. But now that the weather is warming up, we're coming into summer, I might give this a go. I might wear this around just to see if I like it. I probably won't because, again, not a huge fan of crop tops, but it's worth a shot. And if I don't like it, there is people that I can give this to, or if they don't want it, I can always donate it. What do we got next? This one is another favorite of mine. This is my butterfly Howery, and I love this design. I think the butterfly detailing just takes it to the next level. I really like it. The one thing I would change about this cardigan is the sleeve width. Wearing sleeves so wide like this annoys the absolute shit out of me, especially because most of you guys will know I use mobility aids, I use crutches, and they just get caught and tangled in these wide sleeves. Trying to insert my arm into like my cuff crutches with this on is an exercise in frustration. So if I ever recreate this, I'm probably going to make the sleeves much narrower. And also I wouldn't mind having a shorter length one because this falls, I haven't worn it for a while. You know what? I can just try it on and see. I have it right here. I can literally do that. You can't see because there's a mountain of clothes in the way, but this falls to just above my knee. So I would like to make a version that probably ends about my hips, about there. I think that could look quite nice, and I might go for different colours too. I wouldn't mind. Do you guys remember a few years ago when Galaxy, oh, you can't see that. Galaxy colours were big. You had like the blacks, the purples, the sort of magenta colours. I've always really liked that combination, and I think a butterfly Howry like this in those colours would look pretty sick. So there we go. There's another project for 2024. I don't have enough of those. I just need to keep adding to the list. What else have we got? Okay. This one. My toadstool dress. I love this thing. This is another one of those ones where it was my first attempt at making something like this, so it is definitely flawed, but I think I did a pretty good job. And did you see that? Was it just a bit of fluff running down? And that doesn't mean that I can't improve upon it in the future. I did want to give this to my niece because she really liked it. I'm keeping it here for her for now, and also it's way too big for her at the moment. She's only a tiny little thing, way too big for her. So I'm keeping it here for her so she can play dress up when she comes over. She can wear it when she grows up a little bit if she wants to, but I can also use it as a reference for when I make a second version, because one of the earlier videos I'm planning in 2024 is a sort of how-to on how I made the top version of this dress, because a few people have asked me about it. And while I don't think I'm quite at the point where I can make a proper tutorial, I do think I can do a how-to. So maybe if you're an intermediate crocheter, maybe even an advanced beginner, you will hopefully be able to follow along with what I'm doing, but it's not an official tutorial. I will do that one day, but I want to be more confident about the pattern before I put that out into the world. But, I really like how this thing came together, and the red yarn, was it the Lion brand yarn I used for this? It feels so lovely. I would like to use that in another project. Down here with you. And then the final project I'm going to discuss with you guys today is probably my favorite so far. How many of you can guess? How many of you can guess what it is? I can give you a hint. It's shown up in a lot of videos since I've made it. Ta-da! My black rainbow granny hexagon cardigan with a few additional pieces attached to it. I mentioned in the video where I created this that I wasn't too enthusiastic about the bottom. That is still the case, but I don't hate it. I just think it doesn't quite match the jacket the way I thought it would. But I like it. For a prototype, I love how this turned out. I like the hood. I like how that turned out. I like the top portion, the hexagon cardigan portion, just because black and rainbow is a combination I think works super well. Always love that. I do like the bottom. I just wish I'd put it on perhaps a different project. Doesn't match quite as well as I wanted it to. But all up, I love this jacket. I will wear this thing until it is worn out, but hopefully by that stage I'll have crocheted myself a few more, so I won't have to mourn too much to see this one retired. But that is all the clothes that I have finished so far in 2023. Lucky I noticed this in time. I have to interject here because I almost forgot my most recent piece. My skull vest, which I shamelessly stole from Temu, or Wish, or Shein, or Amazon, or eBay, or one of the other 100 sites that this design was on. Yeah, so the reason it wasn't with all my other clothes is because I'm in the process of turning this into a jumper. If you saw the video where I made this, you'll know the vest didn't quite work out, so I've decided to turn this into a jumper. Can't believe I almost forgot this. I really love this design. It came together so well, so much better than I thought it would. If I had, stay there please, if I had got my measurements correct, this would have been easily top two or three of my favorite projects that I've made so far. But alas, I screwed up and I made it a little bit too big, so it turned into a t-shirt rather than a vest. But I'm fixing that. I'm just going to turn it into a jumper. And this is another one of those projects that I 100% want to revisit because I am determined to have a skull vest. I can't believe I almost forgot this one. In my defense, it was sitting in the other room because I was crocheting with it. I don't know if that's much of a defense, but that's my excuse anyway. Now you can get back to the rest of the video. I hope this wasn't too jarring to just interject it somewhere in the video. Not me shoehorning in another segment because I forgot yet another piece of clothing that I made. As I'm filming this, we are coming up to Christmas 2023, and I kind of forgot that I was using my watermelon skirt to hide some Christmas presents for my sister so my nephews wouldn't find them. I'm just going to keep my review of this one brief. I like how this skirt turned out. If I'd change anything, it would be to add a few more increases to the top here just to give it a little bit more flair, a little bit more shape. But overall, this one gets a thumbs up for me. The design came out pretty well, I think. Hopefully, I haven't forgotten any more clothing, and this is the last time I'll need to do this. Back to the video. Probably not as many as I wanted to get through, but I mean, I still got to make a few. It's not nothing. And I've also got currently, I think three other clothing projects in the works, because the way I make my videos is anything that I know is going to take a while. It's going to be a project that lasts weeks to months. I try and start that well in advance and give myself a lot of time to work on it. That way I can work on it in between other projects, and I'm not rushing to get one huge project done, in a matter of a week or two. It works out much better for me like that. I will give you, though, a sneak peek of one of them. Ready? You guys probably can't see this properly because I'm going to blur it because I don't want to give you any spoilers. But this is by far one of my favorite color work projects to date. This design I made is chef's kiss, if I do say so myself. I love it, and I cannot wait to share this with you guys next year. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I do not want to spoil it, but I am so excited about that. I can't wait till the whole project comes together. So, going forward, 2024, what are my plans? Basically, I'm going to keep making different styles of clothing. As I progress, I want to attempt more and more complex pieces. I want to start getting a little bit fancy, but before I do that, I need to really have the basics of garment making down. There's no point building upon a shoddy foundation. So for my next few projects, including the ones that I've already told you about that are currently in the works, I'm just going to slowly ratchet up the difficulty levels. And then hopefully towards the end of next year, I'll have used up the majority of my yarn stash, because that is part of the plan too. I don't want to go out and buy new yarn if I don't have to. I have a large stash that I want to get through. So I'm using all the yarn currently in my stash to create new clothing designs, to experiment, and then at the end of the year, when I've hopefully burnt through that stash, I've used up all the old stuff, the not great quality stuff. At that point, I want to start making better quality clothing. That's the plan at this stage anyway. I do want to make a lot more clothing in 2024, but I also don't want to sacrifice doing other things, crochet challenges, making amigurumi. I want to get a nice balance going there. I also want to try some other crafts. I want to give knitting a go. I would love to get back into sewing. I used to do sewing several years ago. Very amateur. I just made myself some basic patterns like PJ pants, PJ shorts. The most complex project I ever made was an orca tail blanket, like a mermaid tail, but I wanted an orca version, so I made that instead. And I haven't done that for a while because there was a time there where sewing, it just got too physically demanding for my my body. So I had to give that up. And then a few years after that, I learned to crochet and I haven't really gone back. So I would like to get into that again. Maybe I could combine crochet and sewing. But yeah, there is plenty I want to do in 2024. Sometimes I feel like I'm not going to have time to do it all, but I'll give it my best shot. So thank you all for watching this video. Let me know which piece of clothing was your favorite. If you have any suggestions for clothing you'd like to see me attempt to make, pop those down in the comments. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Share it if you think it's worth sharing. If you would like to be part of this community, my Patreon is linked down in the description, and I will see you all next week with another pattern. And I'd just like to say a final thank you to all of my patrons for your amazing support.